Good afternoon, scholars. I'm L Letsoalo, your lecturer for the module Sociology of Education in the College of Education, Department of Educational Foundations. In this lesson, I'm just going to give you a background of the module. As I've already mentioned, the module is Sociology of Education, or SED2601. That is the code for the module. Firstly, I'd like to welcome you to this module. For you to be able to progress successfully in this module, you need the following: your tutorial letter 101, the prescribed textbook for Sociology of Education, and lastly, your reader or your study guide. I believe you are aware that in this module, you have 3 assessment tasks or assignments to work on, which are compulsory. The first assignment, or assignment 1, it is a multiple choice question assignment. For you to be able to work on this assignment, you should go through all the 4 chapters in your prescribed textbook and also in your study guide. Then as for assignment 2 and assignment 3, you are expected to answer short and paragraph or long questions in detail. Let's go to the outline of the module. The module basically covers the major theories in the sociology of education, which are functionalism theory, conflict theory, and lastly, symbolic interactionism theory. So the module Sociology of Education incorporates the discipline of sociology. In other words, how does society work? What institutions do we find in the society? What are the relationships between all the members of the society? Moreover, Sociology of Education reflects on the role of education. It is concerned with schools in society. The outcomes of the module are as follows. At the end of the module, you should be able to analyze the 3 theories I've mentioned: functionalism theory, conflict theory, and symbolic interactionism theory. You should also be able to understand how the theories explain and interpret society and the role of the school. You are also expected to understand the concept of citizenship, understand what is meant by citizenship education, understand that there are different interpretations of citizenship education. Moreover, you should be able to explain what is meant by diversity, and also to understand culture and its role in society. Moreover, you are expected to understand the concepts such as race, class, and gender. You should also be able to analyze how these concepts work within the context of schools and classroom practice. The sociology of education theories are as follows, as outlined in chapter 1 and 2 of your prescribed textbook. First and foremost, let's have a look at the first theory of functionalism. In this theory of functionalism, functionalists believe in social order. Therefore, schools play an integral role in keeping the society stable. Schools also help society to function or work more effectively. Schools are also linked to other institutions in the society, such as the state and the economy, for example. Moreover, the school takes over from the family by socializing learners to relate to people other than their family members. Schools teach skills and values which are useful in the workplace. All learners who attend school are essentially equal in the sense that they have the same curriculum, classroom, and uniform. Second theory for us to have a look at is what we call the conflict theory. Conflict theory argues that society is unequal, meaning some people and institutions have more power, such as economic power, than others. Society is made up of societal classes and they are unequal. Therefore, some classes are more privileged as compared to the others. In relation to schools, it's important to mention that schools are not equal in the fact that there are deep inequalities which are rooted in the schooling system. For example, working class schools are in general less privileged when you compare them to middle class schools and the elite schools. So conflict theories emphasize social justice issues and argue that society can change. Secondly, try to think of examples of inequality in the South African school system or education system or in classroom, just to get a picture of the inequality that exists in the society. In the second chapter or chapter 2, that is where you'll be learning about socialization. Socialization can be defined as an ongoing, flexible social process in the sense that it demonstrates how people learn from each other or how people interact in the society. It also includes how we are brought up by families or communities in society. What roles do schools play in the society of learners? Now, learners are socialized while they are also at school. For example, they learn how to be punctual, which means they don't go to school at any time. They can't leave the school premises at any time. They also learn compliance. For example, a learner can't just go out of the classroom without telling the teacher or informing the teacher where he or she is going. So think of also other school-based examples of socialization. Still on chapter 2, we have the third theory, which is called Symbolic Interactionism. This particular theory is more concerned with how people interact with each other in society. Therefore, how we communicate with each other, either verbally or non-verbally. Moreover, the theory of symbolic interactionism considers the individual or the self, so to say. It argues that people can think, can make meaning, can interpret symbols, can also use language, and they are active and not passive in their interaction in society. The theory can be applied to the classroom. Think of examples how a teacher interacts with and interpret learners, or examples as to how learners interact with and interpret teachers while in the classroom environment. In chapter 3, you'll be learning about citizenship education. Citizenship education is a legal status. It's all about how to be a citizen. It is also a practice, meaning it deals with how to act as a citizen. Moreover, citizenship education prepares South African learners to act locally, but think globally. It also examines citizenship education and curriculum development in the post-apartheid South African schools. Moreover, citizenship education involves active notions or ideas of citizenship education. Now, there are two notions of citizenship education. There is active notion. In an active notion, that is where learners are actively involved in learning to make democratic decisions. They also take an active role in community issues, and they also participate in extracurricular activities. Therefore, in an active citizenship notion, information about citizenship is caught. In the second instance, that's where we have the passive notion to citizenship education. Passive notion to citizenship education is organized in a formal curriculum. Therefore, learners are taught how to be good citizens in schools. Aspects of citizenship are transmitted by teachers and learned by children. Moreover, you are going to learn as to how different countries such as United Kingdom and South Africa view citizenship education. Let's first of all have a look at citizenship education in the United Kingdom. In the United Kingdom, the type of citizenship education there is a mixture of hard and soft curriculum approaches. It is in a curriculum-based as well as encouraging learning by doing. Children are taught from an early age about social and moral responsibility through being involved in their communities. They are taught political literacy about public life and government. In case of our country, South Africa, post-apartheid citizenship education emphasizes the following: the Constitution, redress of previous inequalities during the apartheid era, teaching for democracy, participatory citizenship, and also respect for human rights. Still on chapter 4, you'll learn about diversity and culture in education. In chapter 4, you should familiarize yourself with the following concepts: diversity, culture, identity, race, social class, gender, and also access. First and foremost, let's have a look at the concept diversity. Diversity is all about learning about group differences, enabling different groups to reach their full potential, working towards tolerance, and how to deal with xenophobia, teaching tolerance and respect for others. Sources of diversity or difference can include aspects such as gender, race, class, access to education, and also culture. Think about how these sources of diversity can be considered and dealt with in a classroom context. For example, gender fair teaching. Also think of other examples which are relevant in this context. The second aspect is culture. Culture is a way of life. It is all about how people adjust to different environments. This can be recognized through aspects such as the way people dress, their religion, and also sports, just to give an example. There are also symbol systems such as language. That is also another aspect of culture. The next concept is identity, which is all about understanding who we are, therefore knowing our roots. It is shaped by our interaction with other members of society. It's relational in what we exist in relation to other living creatures as human beings. Then the next concept is race. The concept race in itself has a genetic component. However, sociologists see race as a social construct in the sense that race refers to how a group is defined socially. Looking at how a group is defined based on its history, cultural beliefs, and economic factors. As I've already mentioned, it is socially constructed. Society assigns people to racial categories, such as Black, white, and so on. And this is not because of science or logic or fact. It is simply a matter of opinion and social experience. The next concept is social class. The concept social class is all about how society is divided into different classes, such as working class, middle class, and the elite class. These classes share common economic resources, and there are divisions between the classes and inequality of wealth. Social class is also fluid, so one can shift from one class to another. There is allowance for free movement amongst the classes. So there are two systems of stratification in society. The first class is what we call the open system. The system is based on merit, talent, and ability. It's more fluid and flexible than a closed system. A class system means people can shift from one class to the next, such as from the working class to the middle class. It's a system which is associated with modern capitalism. The second class is the closed system or the caste. In this particular system, ranking is based on characteristics over which most people have little or no control at all, such as a rigid system in which there are strict hierarchies and economic roles are fixed. For instance, in a society where the minority are rulers, such as kings and queens, and the majority are peasants. The next concept for us to look at is gender. Gender refers to the different qualities of being a man or a woman. But these particular qualities are socially defined and created through socialization and cultural expectations. From sociologists' point of view, gender is a social fact, not a biological fact. Moreover, gender is all about masculinities and feminities. As I've already mentioned, it is socially constructed. It's linked to socialization in the sense that girls and boys are socialized into gendered roles. Gender can also result in stereotyping. Think about how gender can inform classroom or school practice. Are there discriminatory gender practices in schools? That is another question to think about. How can teachers follow their constitution so that they teach in a gender fair way? That's another question to think about. The next concept is access to education or access to schooling. Access to schooling is dependent on race, class, and gender, in the sense that children from privileged families have access to better equipped fee-paying schools. Whereas on the other hand, children from less privileged families often go to under-resourced schools. So their access to schooling depends on the financial situation of their parents. Access into educational systems includes several different factors, such as the state provision of education. So access is not neutral. It's also dependent on the historical influence, race, sex, and class of the learner. Some learners are denied access to schools because of one or more of the latter factors. Do you think there are groups in society that have greater access to education than others? That is the question that I'd like you to think about and be able to discuss or say your side of the story about access to education. Thank you very much for your attention. In the next lesson, we'll focus on how you are expected to work on your assignments. I'm aware that you have already started. I'll just give you tips as to how you should approach your assignments. I believe in this particular lesson, you'll get a picture of a lens you are expected to use when you intermingle and maneuver or navigate in your module SED2601 or Sociology of Education. Focus on your studies. It is possible. You can do it. Thank you very much.